Is your old pal Jesse with another edition of Gen X Thinks. And this is a special edition because I'm going to break it down and tell a little story straight out the box from the gangster category. And if you recognize those lyrics and know what song I just quoted, you're Gen X. All right. I make these videos once in a while about my childhood because I had a crazy childhood. My parents were a little a little off the beaten path, to say the least. If you've watched my other videos on this subject, then you know what I'm talking about. Here's one. And this started, I was about 12. So this was around 82 or 83, right after my mom had ghosted us. So it was just my dad was an alcoholic, and me and my brother and my two sisters. And they were all younger than me. So I was the oldest one at 12. We were in Florida, and here, a little backstory here. My mom was from Florida, and my father was from Washington State. So they're literally the opposite sides of the country. And for some reason, they went back and forth a lot when I was younger. Not just a normal way a normal family would travel. We got across the country in interesting and different ways, which are separate stories, but this particular trip was memorable. So that's where we were. We were in Florida, but we were with my dad. My mom had left, disappeared, didn't know where she was. So my father wanted to get back to Washington near his family. His mother, my grandma, had sent him some money. We were completely broke. We had nothing. My father had a bad back, and he'd been laying on the couch for like 3 months. And I mean, we were as broke can get. So my grandma sent us some money, and I guess he bought a car with it and packed us all up, and we head north. So he's driving this big hoopty of a station wagon with four rambunctious, literally wild-eyed forest creatures of children. As you can imagine, he was born in 33, so he was old school anyway. He was from the silent generation, and he was a man, and he just didn't have a lot of child rearing skills. He just kind of let us run buck wild, and we did. Out in the forest of Central Florida, we were like wild animals to a certain point. But anyway, we're heading north toward Washington State, back to his family. And we get to Mobile, Alabama. And by this time, it's night, and he's drunk. He's drinking vodka. And I'm 12, remember. And I've driven a little bit out there in the woods, trying to learn how to drive out there, but not much. My father's hammered. He's tired of driving, and he doesn't want to stop. So he puts me in the driver's seat on I-10. He stopped in Mobile, Alabama, get him another pint or whatever, told me to get in the driver's seat and drive. And he helps me, he guides me, from the gas station up the on-ramp and onto I-10. And he's in the passenger seat, and my brother and my two sisters are sleeping in the back seat because it's night. I mean, it's dark night. So I get on I-10 and I'm driving, I'm driving like this and can barely touch the pedals. I remember I think it was a 3 on the tree, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, but I remember driving one of those, and I remember that being the one. But it's been a lot of years, so I could be wrong about that. But I'm driving, and of course, just about 15 minutes into the drive, he passes out and starts snoring. So basically, everybody else is asleep, so I'm here alone, 12 years old, driving down I-10 toward Louisiana. And as I cross the bridge of the Mississippi River, that's a long bridge, period. I don't care who you are, how old you are, but when you're 12, it's an eternity. and in the black of night, and I'm crossing this bridge, and at night, and there was hardly any traffic on the road. There was some, but not much. I remember the whole inside of the car starts flashing with, red and blue lights. And I don't know what's going on. And I look into the rear view mirror and I see a police car coming up behind me. Now that, that that's a bad enough feeling when you're an adult, you're gonna have to pay a ticket or whatever. But when you're 12 and your father's drunk in the passenger seat beside you, all right, and not only that, he, my dad didn't give us spankings, like, he beat our ass. He Nowadays he would go to jail, without a doubt. He might have gone to jail back then if somebody had witnessed him do it outside of our family, but he would just beat us. He didn't believe in that spanking shit. So I was afraid of that beating more than I was afraid of the police. So I was afraid to wake him up and let him, try to. I don't know if I could have. He was passed out, drunk on vodka, but I don't know if I could have waken him up. But I was afraid to even try. So I'm just panicked. I'm frozen, panicked. I don't know what to do. I'm on a bridge. I can't pull over, and I really don't know the process of that. I don't know if I would be capable of pulling over if I can push down on the gas pedal or the brake hard enough, to get the car to stop, and if I'm going to wreck it or whatever. But I'm on a bridge, so I can't really do that anyway. I don't have that option, which turned out to be a good thing because, as the cop came up to me right behind me and got closer, he went around me. Woo, 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 and kept going. But when you're 12, that was one of the scariest things I've ever experienced. And again, later on, I think as I got into Louisiana, the only time I had any issue was I would come up behind a car that was going like 30 or 40 miles an hour, and I'm in the far right lane, the slow lane, and I come up behind this car that's going way slower than me, almost crawling. So I did wake up my dad for that. I didn't know what to do. Do I just stay behind? So I shook him and woke him up, and he looks around, looks at no traffic coming behind us or whatever, and he told me to go around. So I went around that car and got back into the slow lane, and then he fell back asleep, and I woke him up when we got to New Orleans. I think when I started seeing the signs for New Orleans, I woke him up, and he got up and guided me off the freeway to another gas station or whatever. Then he took over. And another tale along that trip, somewhere along the line, I forget what road or whatever, but he takes a right and starts heading north. Now I don't know how much more I drove on this trip. I'm sure I drove some more, but I don't remember it at all. I'm sure I did, but I don't remember it. I just remember that first time. That first time was so scary that it stuck in my head. Uh, well, we head north, and right as we were getting into Topeka, Kansas, the car breaks down on the side of the road. We're broke down, and he doesn't have any money to fix the car or anything. We're just sitting there on the side of the road, no one to call. We're slap in the middle of the country. But I remember sitting there on the side of the road, and a police car pulls up, and he starts asking my dad questions and stuff. But he's a nice guy, doesn't harass us or anything. And he gets on his radio and stuff and starts squawking and back and forth. And then we all get into the police car, and he drives off. Now, us kids, we aren't privy to that conversation or whatever. We had no idea what was going on. This is, are we going to jail? What did we do wrong? All this stuff. We're just panicked, scared, shitless. It was crazy. But as it turned out, this is unbelievable. As it turned out, the mayor of Topeka, it was his election. He was coming up for election in a couple months. So he latched onto us as a promotion op thing, you know, to show his constituents how caring he was and all this stuff, right? And some of the rest of the story in Topeka, back in, if any of y'all are from Topeka or were there in 82, 83, you might remember this because we were on TV. The mayor put us on TV, found a mechanic who fixed our car for free, just donated the parts, labor, everything. Took donation. My dad ended up, they ended up sending my dad, the generous people of Topeka, Kansas, sent us, we ended up with like several $1,000s just of traveling money, cash money in my dad's pocket. They put us up in a nice hotel with room service. A bunch of dirty foot redneck kids out of Central Florida. Now we're sitting there eating, you know, room service in a fancy hotel while our piece of shit station wagon's getting fixed over there in some mechanic shop. But we spent about 2 or 3 days there, I think, and maybe longer because we had to be enough time to get donations in and then for the donations to be given to us or whatever. But I remember being on TV. I remember being in front of the cameras, and my oldest sister, which is the one right below me, she's 1 year younger than me. She was all nervous and scared in front of the. She didn't want to be in front of the cameras, and the rest of us, we didn't care. I'm getting room service. All I got to do is stand in front of the camera. Yeah, yeah. So from there, then they fixed our car, that mechanic. And if you're still alive, mechanic, thank you. Whoever did that, thank you. And all the generous people of Topeka, Kansas who helped us out of that tight spot, thank you. I never got to say thank you to y'all. So sincerely, thank you. So we made it the rest of the way to Washington off the generosity of the people in Topeka, Kansas. And I'll leave you there. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Y'all are awesome. I'm proud to be part of the greatest generation who ever lived. And I sincerely believe that. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and leave comments if you're inclined to. I enjoy visiting with y'all and reminiscing. And as always, stay frosty, Gen X, and I'll see you on the next one.